Illusion may be the ultimate weapon, but this franchise is very real and anything but an illusion in the hearts and minds of 80s kids and now adults who are collecting this toy line presently. So what we're here to talk about today is the franchise of M.A.S.K, or Mobile Armored Strike Command. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I had to stutter that one out. So is it an underrated franchise? Is it properly served in today's times? Did it underachieve a little bit relative to the other toy lines in its era? What's the legacy of M.A.S.K today? Either way, we're here to talk about it. And with that, once again, my name's Ken, and this is a Toy Kennections Online live stream, or TKO, broadcasting to any and all of you, whatever time of day and whatever day of the week it happens to be in your area. So I got a few friends backstage, and before we can unleash the mighty power that can save the day, I'm going to bring them on camera. So the first individual here is a person I've been talking about doing this stream for a little while now, and I knew I would never hear the end of it if I didn't invite him on for this one. So we coordinated a time, we made it all work, and I think he said that M.A.S.K is his favorite toy line of all time, but if it's not, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. So from GenXToysGeek fame, Jody, welcome back to Toy Kennections Online.
Greetings and salutations.
Greetings.
Well, you know that Transformers is my old favorite, but M.A.S.K is definitely number 2.
Okay, fair enough. I think you said that M.A.S.K was the greater toy line, but Transformers was your favorite. You said something like that last time we talked, so got a little confused.
It has more play value, right? So M.A.S.K has definitely more play value. Because with Transformers, I like it. Don't get me wrong, I love Transformers. But yeah, you can't really reenact the cartoons because you go, here comes Optimus Prime. Transform! 5 minutes later, you've got a bot. And M.A.S.K,
you so much and you click.
So much you just one button and it transforms.
So how's your viral video doing? Is it 2.6 million views now is what I thought I saw?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, for those who don't know.
Still a lot of stupid comments.
Yeah, I understand. For those who don't know, Jody did a video on the 80s vehicles and where they are today, and it went absolutely bonkers viral to a point that I can't even imagine how many views he's got. That's how many views the big YouTubers get. So like the big YouTubers, we're talking the Jake Paul level there. So, but anyway, we got a couple other friends waiting patiently backstage. And this next individual, he's mostly a behind the scenes moderator across a whole bunch of channels. You know, doesn't like being on camera, but we yanked him on camera for this one and said, you know, you're too smart to be behind the camera all the time. He's always going to be known as the captain to us, even though he calls himself plain old Michael. But this is Michael Shaffer and a beautiful setup.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks, Ken, for having me on. Hi, Jody. How you been?
Doing good, Mike.
Good.
Yeah. So here to talk M.A.S.K, and I don't know. You can see I'm a little bit excited. You know, like jumping jittery. You know, more than my usual. You know, I haven't even had my coffee yet. You know, this is like Ken 3 coffees deep level of caffeine, and I haven't had any caffeine today. So, but anyway, you know, I'm not sure if he knew that Michael was going to show up with this setup, but this next individual tried to one-up us all in setup. He recently collaborated with his fellow friends from Chasing 80s Toys and Analog Toys on a M.A.S.K Toy Histories video, which you should all check out. And I know he spends most of his time underwater, but you say the words Mobile Armored Strike Command, and he just dives right out and joins the rest of us in the land of the walking. So, all right, Scuba Pete, welcome back to TKO.
Hey, I am excited to talk about Star Wars today. What? No, it's not Star Wars. Oh, M.A.S.K. We're talking about M.A.S.K.
Yeah, we were complaining about Star Wars just before we jumped on here, so you know, it's one's Kenner, the other's Kenner. I guess
it's all Kenner goodness.
It's all Kenner.
Hey, Scuba, that trick only works if you do a T-shirt swap in the meantime.
It's like off camera.
Nobody wants to see that.
And with that, we got a few friends joining us in the chat. Boba Hicks, hello there. Greetings and salutations from this individual, and greetings, salutations from this individual as well. And all three of you making sure I'm not too lonely in the chat, which is great. But Gojatron has joined us as well, as has Kieran Ball, Grindhead Jim, and I'm sure a few others will file in as the stream goes on. Well, gentlemen, we got a rocketing agenda. Rocketing, can I say that? It's the whole Star Wars thing, you know. Kenner.
Oh, M.A.S.K has rockets. They have plenty of rockets.
They got a lot.
They do. They do, and I think we determined that this is either Jody's favorite or least favorite vehicle, depending on his day of the week.
Right? Yeah.
Chris Miwa made the comment about how this is Jody's vehicle on that Mask Histories video that y'all collaborated on, and I went and bought one yesterday, literally. I was like, "Look, Jody, look what I got! I'm cool, I fit in." He's like, "Ken, no." Chris was being anything but serious when he said that.
Yeah, you should never take Chris serious.
Yeah.
Jody's face. He's like, I hate the Firefly.
Hello, Jeff Morris, and hello, Keith Knight. So,
What's up?
yeah,
Hey, guys.
gentlemen, let's dive right into it. I mean, the Mask franchise. I just want to ask the absolutely loaded question up front: is it underrated? Is it properly served? Let's go clockwise. Jody, let's go with you. What do you think, buddy?
It's just such an amazing property. Toys, they're so amazingly well designed, so much play value. The cartoon was way too short-lived. For me personally, there's only one season because season 2 is they completely changed the format for season 2. I think it might have killed the show as well. If you look at toy lines, first 2 waves amazing. Wave 3 had some really cool toys. What the F is up with Wave 4?
All right, so split second series, not your thing, I guess. Shaffer, what about you? Underrated, properly served? What do you think?
I think it's properly served. I mean, it's underrated in that I don't think it gets the appreciation for its engineering. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, engineered overall toys from the 1980s. The amount of intricacy that they put into those, on top of having the same level of detail that, like, say, a G.I. Joe or Real American Hero toy had. I mean, tons of detail plus tons of mechanical things going on to make all those mechanisms work. I don't know that it's appreciated there enough, but I think it, for what it was, for as long as it lasted, like Jody said, it was really only one season because in my market, it was a daily show. It was every day after school, 5 days a week. And you had those, 65, 66, I forget the number exactly, of the episodes. And, that lasted a year. And then that second racing series, that was just that I didn't even know about it. If it was on, I didn't watch it by then. But it was It was
10 episodes, I heard. So
yeah, I think 10 episodes. I only watched it as an adult later, once I got it on disc. But yeah, I think it's properly served. Overall, for what it was.
Fair enough. Well, Pete, from behind that setup, tell us what you think. Underrated, properly served?
I know as a kid, it was very underrated for me. I didn't even pay attention to the toy lines. I dabbled with the cartoon because my younger brother watched that rather relentlessly, and I would hop in every now and then it would get to, T-Bob and Scott. And I was like, I'm out. Yeah, I think I'll go play with my G.I. Joes. Because I was like 13 when that was airing. And so, yeah, very heavy into Joes and space Legos. But so in that regards, it was underserved in my childhood toy world. But I think as an adult, it's hugely popular. I know when I'm out toy hunting, it is tough to find in the wild good, complete, or even semi-complete mass vehicles. I mean, they're just not there. So, I mean, they're still hugely popular.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I agree with what all three of you have said. And just from my own perspective, when I look at the A-list toy lines and A-list franchises, I would say this is quite underrated. When you talk to people like us, it's absolutely properly served. When I went to Toy Traders yesterday, one of the comments that was made was M.A.S.K is you can't keep it on the shelf, right? It's just people see Thunderhawk, people see Rhino, people see Switchblade. It's out the same day.
Yeah, it's gone.
Right?
Well, there's something about it because the toys are of the time and the vehicles are of the 1980s. I mean, it captures a specific feel. Those vehicles you don't see on the road anymore. You only really saw them back then. So it's not only a great toy, but it's that nostalgia kick that other toys, you don't see X-Wings on the road. You don't see TIE fighters on the road, I mean,
fair enough.
So, you don't even see All Strikers, or, you have to really squint hard to see a Warthog to be a
Right.
a Rattler. But anyway, I digress.
Even then, you're just seeing things.
Right. But my point is, I think that has something to do with why they're the toy line's popular now. I mean, I think the toy line's appreciated because of the mechanics, the quality. They really do hold up. I know some people have a lot of problems with the rubber tires. I know those tend to rot, but the plastic Kenner used overall is pretty sturdy, and
it is. It really
and
is,
they're a lot of them are reparable. Some are, some are so complicated and glued together and difficult, but most of them you can really fix them and,
absolutely,
them and take them apart. So,
yeah. So I'm just going to jump in for a second and say, Articulated Chad, thank you very much for the super chat. And he greets us, good morning. And that M.A.S.K is easily his second favorite IP. Well, we know what his top favorite IP is. One of our favorite Joe collectors to talk to out there, Articulated Chad. So have I hid the current comment? There we go. Sorry. Still learning StreamYard. I kind of felt that M.A.S.K is one of those IPs that was like, it had this bit of a cult following among collectors, and that cult following has just kind of grown. And now every third person I talk to in this space talks M.A.S.K, but I can't go out onto the street and talk M.A.S.K the same way I could talk about Star Wars, Marvel, and Transformers, or at least people who were boys in the 80s growing up. You could talk He-Man and G.I. Joe very much the same way you could talk about, or Ninja Turtles, very much the same way you could talk about Star Wars, Transformers, and Marvel. But with M.A.S.K, they kind of have to think. If they're not a collector, they go, oh, I think I know that line. You press the button and the wings come out, or you press the button and the missile goes. So that's kind of where I feel it's underrated in the overall pop culture market and properly served by people like us. I don't know if I said that already, but that's kind of where I was alluding with that.
There's not a lot of media stuff out there on YouTube, really, not quality stuff for it. So it's not in your face as much as G.I. Joe or Star Wars. I mean, that stuff is, and those things lasted longer. M.A.S.K shined really bright in '85, and then really, I mean, toy lines. Tony brought this up in his toy histories. Toy lines usually take a little bit of time to get going and get better. I mean, Star Wars got better. G.I. Joe arguably got better, maybe a little bit, and then waned off. But those things lasted many, many years, and those cartoons lasted a long, long time. M.A.S.K really only, like Pete said, everybody kind of forgets or doesn't even know about that racing series or ignores it. And the age thing matters. Like Pete and I are, I think, 2 years apart, but that age difference, I'm in 5th grade. I'm 11. I was redshirted, so I wasn't held back. I just started a year late. I was not that dumb. But anyway, I'm in 5th grade, so you're still playing with toys. When you're in middle school, you're maybe collecting toys, but you're not playing with toys.
You're on the cusp of leaving that.
Right. So that age difference, and because you have to be a certain age or under to hit that 1 year, while all this other stuff is coming at you, Transformers, G.I. Joe, M.A.S.K, He-Man, all of those things. He-Man, even though He-Man lasted, what was it, a year until it switched to She-Ra, or was it 2 years, the cartoon?
It might have been 2. I want to say it was 2.
But that extra year helped, I think. My point is, the longevity of a franchise on cartoons to help sell those toys really matters.
And you know what? That happened to me with Power Rangers, because I was 11 when Power Rangers came out. So kids who were 2 years older than me, they were just not into it. And it was very kiddie. So even at 11, it was a very borderline franchise. There was a little bit, and that's kind of cool. It's got that Saved by the Bell teenage feel with the transforming robots feel. Half the kids said that, and the other half the kids like, you watch that stuff. You know what I mean? It's in the middle. It's in the middle for us, right? But there are people who are younger than me who don't know the big 380s in Star Wars. They started with Ninja Turtles, and they go from Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Pokemon, all that, Yu-Gi-Oh. That's what they're into. But very great insights from you gentlemen. As far as collecting is concerned, and some people in the chat have said this, like in the live chat on the side here have said this already, but because M.A.S.K is a smaller toy line overall, but still very significant, where does it fit between all your bigger toy line. I don't know a lot of people who collect it as the first primary franchise. A lot of people, they say, it's their second, third, fourth franchise. Let's go clockwise again. Jody sitting there patiently.
Yeah, so unfortunately, all my mask or most of my mask is in storage right now because I live in a very small house and it's filled with Transformers. But yeah, I've been collecting Transformers for a very, very long time, spaceships, and I think Mask is one of the first properties I started collecting when I started going back into collecting other 80s properties. I think the Mask was definitely the first one of them.
Yeah. What about you, Captain?
For me, for my personal collection, it's number 2, but both in size and for what I was really into. I was a strange kid. I was really focused on a line when I was into that line because you could only we only had we had a finite amount of money and you could only afford so much. So I couldn't really scattershot, get everything. So I would focus on Star Wars until I got into something else. My passions lied with M.A.S.K, and I was old enough to have started to earn money doing chores and mowing grass around the neighborhood. So I was buying my own toys at that point.
Right.
And I invested a ton into my M.A.S.K collection. So for my personal collection, what I displayed, M.A.S.K is number 2.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, we can see right behind you. I'm just going to pull you up on solo layout for a minute here because I know you're a Star Wars guy, and I've bugged you about a lot of Star Wars. I know you're a bit of a Trekkie as well. So it looks like you go Star Wars 1, M.A.S.K 2, and then maybe Star Trek and Centurion. Is that Centurions?
Centurions is just above the M.A.S.K shelf. Yes, I would say that's my number 3 for collecting, only because that's from my childhood. I did not collect Star Trek toys as a kid. Star Trek was, for lack of a better word, a way of life. It was something I played. I didn't play with toys. I wanted to be Kirk. I didn't want to play with a toy Captain Kirk, so to speak.
Fair enough.
But yeah, all the Star Trek toys you see I've gotten within the last 3 years, 4 years. 3 years,
yeah,
let's say.
You've been hitting it heavy.
Yeah. My friend Joseph, it started with him. He got me a Scotty. He gifted me an original Mego 75 Scotty.
Nice.
And then got me the bridge that you see, the Mego bridge with the transporter and everything. And I just went crazy. Then I'm like, I have to get the whole original crew, and then started getting some of the modern
Always
stuff
like that.
too. But yeah,
You're giving it all you've got.
But yeah, so Jody tried that with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sending me a Captain Kirk version, but that didn't stick. No, I didn't.
That was a weird crossover.
He is here though. I mean, I have him right there on the shelf. He's up there.
Just trolling the rest of the Enterprise crew, I guess. So,
right.
Yeah. So, Pete, I know you've got quite an eclectic collection, but like, how does M.A.S.K sort of like fit in with the rest of it? Is it a standout? Is it like a tertiary piece? Is it like, where do you?
It's almost like kind of a 4th, 5th mixed in with like Kenner Indiana Jones. I'm still a newbie to this line, thanks to Shaffer and Jody and Chris, with the absolute peer pressure, but I love it. They're great enablers. But my 1, 2, 3s are always, you pick Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe. They all, depending on what day, what month, they flux. But I would put M.A.S.K right there with like my Kenner Indiana Jones, because that's kind of a slowly building collection, but it's not a huge collection. What you see here is pretty much what I have. I have a bombed out Thunderhawk that's in need of many parts to the point I'm like, yeah, I think I just need to look for a complete Thunderhawk. It'll be cheaper.
Well, you just need the 2 bombs, basically, right? Unless you're missing the door extensions too.
Yeah, I need the door extensions.
Oh, yeah, then you may as well. You may as well.
He'll find it. He found a freaking Switchblade. Only thing missing was the damn bomb for $25.
Yeah, $25 from my neighbor, and thanks to Ken, he just sent me the bomb that goes with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
This community is awesome. He's
That's
like,
awesome.
Look what I got for you. And I'm like, no freaking way, dude.
So for those who in the chat who don't know, a lot of you have probably seen it when Analog Toys and Chasing 80s collaborated on that history video that I mentioned earlier. I noticed that Pete said he was missing the bomb, and literally up here next to my Steel Brigade was a little orange missile that I found years ago. For whatever reason, it didn't dawn on me what it was. I just put it there. Last year, I'm doing my own M.A.S.K Series 1 history video, very early in the life of the channel. Some of you have seen it. I was still learning a lot at the time about YouTube. And that's when I looked at the Switchblade. I looked underneath it. I noticed that the missile was the same as the missile there. Forgot about it for a year. I see the video. I was watching the video at lunchtime. I was out, and I'm like, I won't message Pete yet, but I'm pretty sure I have that missile. I come home, I look at it. I take a selfie with it like this. I'm like, hey, Pete, I think you have a complete Switchblade now. So I just shipped it out, I think, on Thursday. So should be there within hopefully within the week.
Nice. But I ran around the house, showed. I'm like, look, and she's like, yay, great,
At least she says, yay, great for a missile. I show this whole collection, and my wife's like, uh-huh.
Would you like that, or would you rather the fake? That's amazing. I don't want to be patronized.
This is true. Yeah, don't
patronize me. I'd rather, personally.
My last girlfriend used to do that. She wouldn't even look up from whatever she's reading. Yeah, that's great. Carry on, Ken. It's just like, I'm like, yeah, okay. So I think you bring up a good point. Sorry to bother you when you're reading whatever article you're reading over there. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I asked all three of you already where this fits within your own collection. So I just realized I jumped off topic a little there. It was just too much fun. We couldn't not talk about that Switchblade story. But with regards to my own, I mean, I'm like the rest of you, where I have a G.I. Joe collection, a wrestling collection, and a Transformers collection that, by and large, because of the cast of characters and just how long they've been around, it just ends up superseding M.A.S.K by and large. But my appreciation for M.A.S.K, like appreciation-wise, it's no second to those, right? But you only have so much funds to go around. If you're doing vintage and modern at the same time, it's hard to, like, I had to make some decisions, right? Like recently I passed on the HasLab His Tank. Like I backed it, and then I said, no, I want something vintage, right? With that money, if I had that space, which I don't, and I ended up passing on it somewhat regrettably, and then ended up buying other stuff. And, now I can buy more M.A.S.K and more and some of you guys, I showed you yesterday, like I ended up buying like a Princess Leia from Hoth, the Kenner Hoth Leia. And I'm a big fan of the Hoth stuff. So like when it comes to vintage, I love it.
The paint on her is immaculate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a good one. Yeah. But it's also a great figure. I mean, I've always liked that Leia figure. I always thought it was, lots of detail in that sculpt with all that quilting look, in the figure. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like if I backed the His Tank, I probably wouldn't have made the haul that I made yesterday. And there was a bunch of other stuff in that haul too. I just showed you folks the vintage stuff because I knew that you guys would have a pretty high appreciation for it. But
do you guys find that because it is a Kenner property that kind of carries a bigger weight to it? Because I know it does for me. Like the older I get, the cooler and more appreciation I feel for Kenner. And I even like to go backwards into like, what were they making and doing before Star Wars? Like, I'm not going to lie. I got an Easy Bake Oven in my like watch list because I think that's cool. It's with the box and it's got that awesome Kenner logo. And, I remember my friend next door, she had one as a kid, but it's just such a neat creation by Kenner. I mean, they did all kinds of building toys, like skyscraper sets and stuff. So I find that Kenner, there's a gravitational pull towards their toy lines.
I was subconsciously a Kenner kid because if you look at my three toy lines, Star Wars, M.A.S.K, and Centurions, that's all Kenner.
Yep.
I didn't realize it. It was completely subconscious. It was never a conscious effort. Looking now, I would also argue their plastic in many ways is superior to certainly G.I. Joe. Nothing against the toy line, but the plastic has become very brittle. Hasbro's plastic. and some of Mattel's stuff. I mean, the figures have held up with the Mattel Motu stuff, but the joints haven't. On
Yeah,
on
I
the
don't
bloody
favor a
hands.
certain. I don't favor a certain brand, but I do have to agree with Shaffer. The camera quality, it's way up there.
Did you ever burn yourself with the Easy Bake Oven, Pete? Jeff Morris curiously wants to know.
You know what? I did not, but she would make killer brownies. Her dad was a radio DJ, so you go next door and his record collection, like it just hit me the other day. Yeah, like when I was looking at that Easy Bake Oven, and I'm like, I remember this. I was like, our neighbor, I can't remember her name, but her dad was a DJ. Tons of record albums in their basement. I mean,
the best of the Stacks on Wax. Yeah,
right.
That guy. Yeah.
And she had the Easy Bake Oven, and they had it plugged in, and she would make brownies, and it was
I can understand why you would want that
awesome.
in your collection. I mean, it's historical. I mean, it was
right.
decade after decade after decade that thing was in the zeitgeist.
Yep.
I mean, Easy Bake Oven jokes were made by mainline comedians. I mean, it was that thing's been around a long time. That made Kenner a lot of money. Little light bulb and a little
with the light bulb and
oven.
brownie mix.
I mean, with regards to Kenner, I missed out on Centurions entirely. Not sure how. I got into Kenner mostly due to Kenner superpowers as a kid, which ordinarily, or oddly enough, I don't collect it as an adult. I was reintroduced to Star Wars later, and as you can, like some of my Star Wars stuff is here, and I talked to all of you guys about Star Wars. But for me, it was about the M.A.S.K. And the Kenner superpowers when I was a kid, as far as the Kenner line is concerned. But when you see the Kenner name, there's just something kind of like an extra spark. Maybe because they don't exist anymore. Maybe because they were bought out by Hasbro. It makes them that much more sentimental because now you're time capsuled. There's like no real future for Kenner. Their future therein lies with Hasbro and whatever polarizing decisions they make. And I'll just be clear, I'm not a Hasbro hater by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel that like one good decision, one bad decision, one good decision, one bad decision. It just feels like it's this push-pull thing, right? So with
Kenner, not that it wasn't a major business, and obviously was owned by some large parent companies, but I think Kenner was run a lot more like a smaller company compared to, I mean, they were small compared to Hasbro and Mattel, back when they got their Star Wars licensing. But I think that small feel, just that care, that quality, I guess maybe somehow came through.
Yeah, we really do care. It's like,
and they made stuff right. Yeah, when I wrote, something was missing from my Christmas Falcon. I don't know if it was a survival backpack or the mask. One of the two. The count wasn't right, and we wrote to Cincinnati, and they shipped a bag full of other stuff. It wasn't just what I was missing, but a couple other items.
Plussed it up.
They were always great about that. So,
and that's what, that's a great point, because Cincinnati's not that far from me. It's cool to go see what's now the Kroger building, but that used to be the Kenner building. You can go to Kenner Street. You can go look at Central train station there, which is a museum now, and go Hall of Justice. There's all these nods to Kenner. I know, one person that their brother used to work for Kenner, and so we have occasional exchanges of stories that his brother told him. I mean, it's just, like you said, the zeitgeist of it. I see a Kenner box buried in the, because you go into some of these toy shops and you're like, oh God, I'm a big guy, and you're like, I can't make myself that small. But you see a little bit of a Kenner logo sticking out of a box, buried, and you're like, there's that excitement of, I wonder what it is. Can't quite tell.
Right.
I want to dig it out.
Oh, fair enough. With regards to, speaking of, Kenner, I mean, like McLaughlin is kind of run like that today. And I know their quality can be a little hit or miss, but it's very much run by Todd is the top guy. He runs it like a family business, but it's a very big family business, right? Like, I think he's not quite as big as like Funko, which I think is still under $1 billion company, but he's in a few $100 million net worth, where he's above the NECAs and the Super 7s of the world. So like, you kind of get that extra care, at least. I mean, I know people feel a bit polarized about McFarlane, but distribution-wise, we know they don't have any issues. So you get that extra care and that extra intimacy with the product. He cares very much clearly about distribution, and he's clearly nailing that part right.
Yep.
So like when you get that like mom and pop feel in a bigger business, right? You notice it, and I think that's what you're all trying to say about Kenner. It had that mom and pop feel on a big scale, right? As opposed to a corporate feel that was trying to hit its market. Think I said that right. Like I said, I haven't had my coffee this morning yet. So
even though they were direct marketing to us with half-an-hour commercials for toys every day after school, yes.
God, I wanted to be a Kenner. I wanted to be a Kenner kid. You're so jealous.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. All new for Star Wars. And you're like, oh, I can play with the toys in the backyard and they can film me.
That they got to play with them, but they had the new toys. They were playing with the new stuff.
Yeah, that was not lost on me at all. Like
new for 1981, all of Kenner's new Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, or Empire Strikes Back. Just crazy. Anyway, enough of that.
No,
M.A.S.K. I'm talking M.A.S.K.
No, that's totally fine. Talking Kenner, talking M.A.S.K. It's all good. Pete, I'm going to pull you up on solo layout for a few seconds here, just because I want people to see your collection here and the way you've set up the blocks there. You got Condor up on top of the blocks.
It's a modest collection, but I get a shout out to Antonio Viscodes, my friend, who made the desert scene that you see before you. He had plans for it, and then he needed to downsize, and he said, you want this? And I'm like, hell yes, I do. So I love when I get to bust it out and show it off with my little bit of M.A.S.K. And it's
gorgeous.
I'm always adding to it. Like I just completed my Hurricane. I just got the laser for that. So that feels good. That came in just last week.
What are they trying to knock down? What are Hurricane and Firecracker trying to knock down?
I think they're trying to take over the gas station because clearly it's a Venom stronghold.
Right.
But yeah,
Miles is parked on top. They got to get to the roof before he takes off.
That's right.
Well, Hondo can just shoot him there.
With the tire.
Actually, I got a couple things to say about that. The Firecracker. The one thing I always liked about Firecracker, and is that it had two pilots with it. It had both Buddy in the cartoon, right, and Hondo, right. And I always thought in my mind's eye, well, Hondo could pilot one, Buddy could pilot the other, because late in the cartoon they brought Firecracker back, which I thought was kind of cool, right? And it's just I'm literally just as I'm looking at Pete's setup there, because it's a Hondo McLean type of setup at the front, at least at the very front. Oddly enough, the very first retro blasting video I ever saw was called "The Trouble with Hondo." One where he notices and it's like a sleeper favorite. Like when you think of his channel, you don't think of that video first. Like there's like dozens of videos still thinking, but that was the first one. And he talked about how they had Hurricane in the opener, even though it didn't show up until episode 29 or 30 or something. And then the mask for Hondo, it was the second M.A.S.K. on the first figure's body in the cartoon. And I remember just thinking, this was back in like 2015. I didn't even know how to subscribe to YouTube channel back then. But I remember thinking, wow, I noticed all this as a kid. It's nice to know that other people notice it too, right? So one of those sleeper favorite videos of
very cool
of that channel. So just thought I'd make mention of that.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
It is actually. So is there any reason why y'all think that maybe M.A.S.K. didn't get to take off? Like, because it jumped in right when Masters of the Universe, Transformers, and G.I. Joe were all kind of in their prime in 1985. Like, is there any reason why you think maybe M.A.S.K. didn't take off to the same? I know I saw M.A.S.K. toys on shelves, but like it didn't seem to take off to the same level even back then. Jody, what do you think?
That's a very good question. Possibly because it's only one proper season. I know it definitely stuck with me because I actually had a huge M.A.S.K. collection as a kid. I think the only few that were missing was definitely missing Thunderhawk. But it definitely stuck with me, so I can't say why it wouldn't have stuck with others. Again, maybe the age, like Captain Shaffer and Scuba, they are 2 years apart. I'm 2 years younger than Shaffer. So it definitely stuck with me. So age is definitely probably part of it. Yeah, and that it probably went for just one proper season.
Fair enough. What about you, Captain?
I agree with what Jody said. You know, what I said before, I kind of covered that. I mean, for me, M.A.S.K, that was the only toy line I even had a play set for. I had Boulder Hill, and that was the only play set I had. But looking, thinking about my friends, none of my friends really collected the line. I think one other kid did that I knew that I, got to play with. Whereas all my friends were collecting Star Wars. But then I could say the same thing with Centurions. But by the time I was collecting Centurions, most of my friends in '86, they were out of toys. But I was so into the cartoon and still making enough money that. But yeah, I think it's longevity. I don't think it was around long enough, and I also think combine that with the quality of the toys dropped off. They did not have those iconic vehicles. Version after version, wave after wave, let's say. Yeah. That's me though.
Yeah. When you said quality of the toys, I think I almost thought that you meant like the actual toys themselves got crappier in plastic, and I was like,
no.
I was thinking about this because Laser Command is a holy grail. I'm like, I hope that thing doesn't fall apart in my hands. but
I think they're not quite as robust, and I don't think the mechanisms are quite as intricate. When you look at, look at how much they packed into just Condor to put in a little kick. They didn't even have to put in a kickstand, but they put that little kickstand in that extends out. The little details just to make that little laser gun in the front come up. Again, they didn't have to do that. Those little tiny details, I think, were kind of sort of missing. I don't think the quality of the plastic, like you said, but I just don't think it was quite as intricate as
it took me a second, then I realized what you were saying, and I was just because my mind went straight to Laser Command and thinking, oh my goodness, I hope that thing's not fragile as my G1 Transformers over there. But then I realized it was just the iconic nature had dropped off. But makes sense. What about you, Pete?
I remember seeing them on shelves, but then the fact that the figures were not 3 3/4 scale, that definitely sealed it for me. Like, that's not, I'm not going to take them and put them with my Joes, that I'm playing with. Cause I would mix, 3 3/4 scale, like Remco stuff with my Joes, that kind of thing. But yeah, little tiny masks. I'm like, what are you guys? No, you can't.
That's a perfect reason to scale.
Yeah. Like you said, that iconic, Camaro or any other of the vehicles, that catches your eye, but then you go, oh.
It's its own world. You can't really cross it over with other stuff. Yeah.
And it was too big for Starcom, I think, as well. So, or a little too big for Starcom. No, fair enough. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, so my brother is Shaffer's age. He even still, he would watch the M.A.S.K cartoons, but he still never asked for any M.A.S.K, ever. He was solidly in the Transformer camp, Transformers out the patoot. To the point he wouldn't let me transform them because he was afraid I would break them. And so I would sneak in, and play with Megatron and Soundwave without him knowing it. And then put them back and put them, because he had them all displayed, even as a youngster. But heavily Transformer, because I think for even as cool as the engineering is, and obviously as an adult, you've got a great appreciation of the engineering. It's fantastic. Oh, yeah. I think in his kid brain, the fact that Transformers did, like you said, Jody, it takes 5 minutes to transform it. That was what he loved about it, and M.A.S.K was like, well, you could hit a button in it, but
it's not a puzzle.
That's right.
Transformers a puzzle. Yeah.
And Transformers only gets worse. Like those who saw me on my box opening live stream yesterday, I'm trying to transform Cosmos, and I can't quite get it right. I think I transformed it to the point that if I put it in front of the camera, you won't notice the tabs are all loose. And then when the cameras went up, I'm like, oh, that tab flips in there. But yeah, they just Transformers has just gotten worse on that front as far as as far as getting all the modes right. Yeah, I mean, I got into M.A.S.K closer to 1988, like during the racing season, because my cousin
Interesting.
got me. Yep, he got me into it because I had GI Joes and Transformers, and they had a vacation home living next door. They were quite well off, right? So my cousin, who I no longer talk to, I haven't seen him since the early 2000s, just because I haven't been to his part of the world. They came to visit, and he brought his M.A.S.K toys over. And we would have this big war. He'd set up his M.A.S.K. I'd set up my GI Joes and Transformers. And we just had this all afternoon living room battle. And I never saw the cartoon. And then he would sing the theme song, but he's singing it as like a high pitched, 7-year-old kid. I didn't understand how cool the theme song was. I thought it just sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks when he would sing it. And then of course
That's hilarious.
he left. He leaves town. I rent the VHS. And I'm just like, and the theme song, like the opening minute, I had to pause it after. I'm like, that's the greatest theme song ever. All respect to Jason the Wheeled Warriors, which is another amazing theme song.
That's a good,
right?
Good song.
And I don't count Stan Bush's The Touch from Transformers as an official theme song. It's a movie special. If I had to pick an 80s toy song that was better than the M.A.S.K theme song, it would be Stan Bush's The Touch. But it's a special category because it was made for a one-off. So M.A.S.K to me is the quintessential theme song of the 80s. And that hooked me right in. And then, of course, you start the episode, you get all excited. Then you see Scott and T-Bug, you go, oh. I still like the toy of Scott and T-Bob because it's like a cutesy R2D2 type of thing, and they tried to play off the humor, but they didn't quite come off quite as well. And I just didn't think that the M.A.S.K characters were quite as badass as the Joes and the He-Man characters. But once they got in the vehicles, then the episode got good.
Sure.
Right? There was always that lull at the beginning between the theme song and the actual mission. I always found. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's get it on. We see what bad things Venom's up to. We have the creepy music. We see the
that
cool
music
side. Come on, let's get the watches flashing and get these guys to Boulder Hill, charge up the masks, and let's go. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And it was hard to keep up with the names of the characters, the vehicles, and the masks because everything you got had 3 names to it.
That's
right?
a good point.
So yeah, like what was it? Was it Matt Tracker had Spectrum? He rode the Thunderhawk, and his name was Matt Tracker. And even more so if you got the Rhino and you had two pilots, or the Outlaw. Now that's a badass vehicle, the Outlaw.
I love my Outlaw. Yeah, that's a great vehicle.
Yeah, now I'm jonesing to do a Series 2 M.A.S.K history video because then I get to play with Outlaw again. So I need a couple more to finish Series 2.
Tony just got an Outlaw not too long ago.
Yeah,
Analog Toys. He had never. I don't think he had seen it in the flesh. He grew up playing with Rhino and some others, but it's an impressive. I mean, it takes up some space. It's a play set and a vehicle, really.
It folds
Very
right
true.
out. So
yeah, it has outriggers kind of sort of, and has other little things that set up around it. Plus I can't even fit the top antenna on mine in the cabinet. I'd have to take a shelf out. So it just makes it. It just fits in the bottom.
Ooh,
It doesn't beat a Rhino though.
No, I agree. Again, the intricacies aren't there. The detail kind of started to sort of lax there. It just wasn't quite. Has a hell of a missle, but
I'd just like to find a complete
also
Rhino.
don't think they have the Goodyear on the tires, do they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
they do. They have some printing there.
the one that I always thought was cool was Firecracker actually has the tire size on the tire. Like, I mean, to go to that detail to put the the size of the wheel and tire on there, good for them.
The details of the 80s, right? Like they just skimp out on more and more details as the years go by. Any cost-cutting measure, and
the gas hoses from Boulder Hill fit into the vehicles to fill them up.
Yeah,
they're really cool details like that they didn't have to do at that scale. But that point, Pete, is perfect. The scale had so much clearly to do with its longevity because you couldn't mix. Even though Motu was its own scale, it lasted longer because the series was on and Shear was on, and you had wave after wave after wave.
That's right. Technically, Motu scaled with She-Ra, and the idea, I guess we found out in the Toys That Made Us, that Motu, the idea was to make a character or a toy that was bulkier than Luke and looked like it could crush him on the battlefield. I think that was the idea behind it. But they overused that mold. But I guess, for good money, right? I mean, they made a lot.
They're still making them, so that
Tons.
it must have worked. Because I mean, look at how
Oh, yeah.
popular Origins is now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Origins, Masterverse. Like I prefer that Masterverse because of the classics type scale, but everyone else I know is really into Origins.
Yeah. Well, the
Right.
price is great. They're you can buy them in the store.
Yeah.
I mean, to get a modern made playset like Castle Grayskull for what was that? $70, $80?
Yeah,
Yeah.
$73.
Yeah.
That's
US.
unheard of.
And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I'm personally not a Motu collector, but I think they nailed it at putting it in the same scale as the original one, so you can actually mix your vintage toys and vehicles with the modern
Absolutely.
characters.
And they
especially
also didn't update it too much that the aesthetic still works. Not just the scale, but the
does.
aesthetic works too.
the face works.
Yes.
Like you get knee joints and elbow joints now, but the face still looks vintage-y, right? And you can get characters like Wonder Bread He-Man or the Goddess that weren't released in the original line and get them to fit into that line. Right. Now, yeah, you're right. The price is great. That new 4-pack notwithstanding.
No,
you know, they always have to gouge you one place and then they'll give you a good price elsewhere. But you know, yeah. I think we got a few Origins fans in the crowd. So
Mark. Yep.
yeah.
yeah, that 4-pack. That is like a marshmallow test to see how much people's fear of missing out on something in a collection will work. I think I really do. I think you're gonna see a group of people eat the marshmallow when you leave, you know, and a whole group of people that can.
I'm not sure if it even sold out yet because Mega J did a stream where he was watching it and it was like hours and hours later. It wasn't.
It was still. I haven't checked today, but it was still available long into the evening that day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something.
When I tried to get
Easy pass for me.
when I tried to get the SDCC Sergeant Slaughter, it sold out in literally 2 or 3 minutes because I had to create an account and forgot to do that ahead of time. So 4 minutes in, it was sold out. Now my friend got one, and he sold it to me at cost.
Nice.
You know, shout out to Trevor there. But yeah, like this 4-pack, it's a wake up call for them to realize they can't do that. Now, maybe they have their reasons. Maybe they went under the usual order quantity and their unit price went up, but that's their problem. They set a precedent for us. If they want to make a little extra money with the vac metallized weapons and the box, let's say this thing was 110 and not 150, right? I'm not saying that that's cheap by any means, but then, you know, people the FOMO effect
capture more people because I've seen a lot of friends and acquaintances like if this was 100 I might pull the trigger.
That's right.
Not even at 100 would I be at. I'm like, I'm saving my pennies. It's like bring out the Eternia price point already. Like, come on.
But you're already getting a vintage Eternia. You still want the Mattel Creations one as well?
Yeah, I'm look. It's actually sitting over there.
So you can have 2 Eternias.
I want the box, assuming it's not some absurd price. I guess I should put that disclaimer. You know, like, hey, it's going to be $1,000, and be like, really, you know, that kind of. But
yeah,
I want to hope in my heart of hearts that it's $350-ish, maybe $400. But I feel like it's going to be like $500-$600, and it's gonna be
a lot of people are predicting it's going to be 800, and I predicted 5, and the reason I predicted it is I took the WWE New Generation ring with the light up stand and the extra figures. That was $230 to $250. I forget the exact price. Brick something can probably tell me what the exact price of the New Generation ring was, but I just took it and doubled it and figure Eternia will probably be 500. That's kind of what I figured. And I think people might be able to swallow that because
I'm like, I will swallow that if it's around that. But sorry, we're digressing. Squirrel.
Oh, that's okay. That's totally okay. I'm just here to hang out with my buddies. I mean, look, I set up 3 questions. We got through them in the first 40 minutes. We spent 10 minutes talking about He-Man. It's all good, right? Yeah. I mean, did any of you have like a specific go-to or favorite vehicle as a kid? We'll circle back to Jody because he's been the quietest among us today.
Firecracker. Yeah, definitely Firecracker. I just love those pickup trucks. It's just such a gorgeous vehicle, Firecracker.
Michael?
It was Thunderhawk for me. That was the go-to vehicle. Close second was Rhino, but Thunderhawk.
Pete?
As an adult collector, again, I'm going Rhino because I don't have it, and I keep running into it in the wild, but it's always missing things or broken. And thankfully, these guys have educated me enough that I'm like, wait a minute, where's the mirror? Wait, that stack is supposed to be taller. Hey, you're missing the missile, that kind of, and the prices that people are trying to get for it don't reflect that appropriately. Like they're still trying to juice you like it's fine, it's complete. Don't notice the mirror's not missing. It's got the figure.
And the parts are so
expensive. It has one figure. Yeah, and again, the parts. Yeah, exactly. So I would love to find a complete Rhino because I just like that big rig, purple, massive truck feel. I just think that's way cool.
Rhino is hard to find complete. Really hard.
The top radar, similar to the story of the Switchblade missile there. I bought a collection a number of years ago, and my Rhino was missing the top radar dish, right? And I bought a collection of Star Wars back in 2018, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Motu stuff. Someone just purged his collection, and the only M.A.S.K item he had in there somehow was the radar dish for the Rhino. I don't know how that got mixed in. Right, it doesn't have the sticker on it, so my Rhino is complete, but it doesn't have the cool sticker, so it doesn't pop as much. But I can still call it complete. But I'll never forget going to the bottom of the box, like, why is there one M.A.S.K part? And that one I knew, unlike the Switchblade, which I didn't have as a kid and forgot what the missile looked like. I had Rhino as a kid, so I knew what the top radar dish looked like. So I'll always be partial to Rhino as an adult, like you guys are, because of that story. But Condor for me as a kid could fit in your pocket if you went to a restaurant with your parents.
Very true.
Right. Good point. Right. And that's why I was always partial to Condor as a kid. Just because I could take it anywhere. It could fit in my lunchbox next to my lunch as a kid.
That was my first M.A.S.K vehicle, was Condor.
Mine too.
There you go.
How many years have you been in it though, Pete? Is it 3?
Not quite 3.
Not quite 3. I was just curious because you've
it's about 2.5
cool stuff.
But that was Condor was first.
Yeah. So many people's, I think.
Yeah, it's the easy one because back in the day it would cost maybe $20-$30 like a few years ago just to get a complete Condor. Now obviously it's gone up, right? But even getting the box for it and everything, like if you just want a collection that's a small box that has that Kenner art, Condor is a great one to have. Yeah. Right. And I see more of them out there than I see of like Piranha, which is a comparable size.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, there's less to lose. That sidecar, that's 2 pieces, and the mechanism can pop off of the bike itself. Because that bike is kind of, if you look, they reuse a lot of the wheels. The bike on Firecracker and the Piranha have the same wheel spokes.
And I think Condor might even have the same wheel spokes too.
It does.
They were smart with reusing parts, even though the bikes look totally different. They reuse stuff like that. So Kenner.
Oh yeah, smart.
I'm gaining an even bigger appreciation for Kenner just being on this stream, as if I didn't already like it enough, right? Oh, by the way, if we digress from this point on, like I'm good for another 30 minutes or so. If we digress from this point on, I don't really care. I think we've covered a lot of this. We got a lot of love from the chat. We got to express our absolute glorious fun with this franchise. Yeah.
Question for you guys, if I may. Like, how do you think? We talked about the toys. Like, how do you think the cartoon holds up as an adult on rewatch? If any of you, I know Jody has. I think Pete has some. Have you done any rewatching of it yourself, Ken?
I have. Someone on YouTube just put up all the episodes. And I think it's also available on Tubi TV. I don't think it actually holds up. The theme song does, and the last 10 minutes where they're fighting does. But I just find that a lot of the characters, like like Brad Turner is a musician. Dusty Hayes is a chef. So they have those dynamics. But when they talk, everybody
wait. He works at a pizza shop. He's not a chef.
Sorry, he's a pizza maker.
Chef is stretching. I'm sorry, just to all chefs.
No, you're right, because I have friends that are chefs, and they would have picked up on that. You know what I mean? Right?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fair because someone would have picked up on that after the stream. I'm sure would have gotten a comment on that at the very end. But I don't think they played up that aspect enough. And once the dialogue between the characters seemed a little bit monotone from the M.A.S.K end, from the Venom end, I think they had a little bit more of a mix in terms of their nature. But I found that the cartoon after the theme song fell flat for a few minutes. And then the last 10 minutes always gets really good. So I don't know.
I think it still holds up, except for the Scott parts. Scott becomes so much more annoying if you're an adult.
Very tedious.
Yes,
absolutely.
What do you think, Pete?
I mean, I still love all the the MacGuffin part of the story, but yeah, it's kind of like theme song and okay, now we're to the battle,
Yeah.
Scott, how did you get here? I told you to stay back, and you're like, oh God, give it a rest.
It's like a textbook on how not to parent. This is how you should not parent your children.
Right.
Neglect your children. This is a textbook. Yeah, I like the whole idea because it was kind of sort of Transformers, Indiana Jones, Knight Rider. Like it had all these different flavors going on because there was always, like you said, the MacGuffin was. There was some geographical or historical place we're going to go in the world because Venom wants this people's crystal or this museum's whatever, and
the meteor,
very Lex Luthor. Are we going to Addis Ababa, Mr. Luthor? There's a lot of that going on. So yeah, that part it's charming. What holds up in adult eyes today, it's difficult to look back on anything that it's overly saccharine. You're always forcing that kid thing in, and the PSA is always in there to make sure we're safe and good, and make sure you look both ways before you cross the street. Scott, as you drive away on your weird ass robot that has one wheel and somehow balances itself, that comes out of its own ass. Very strange.
I usually throw it on if I'm monkeying with something else. Just in the background if I'm in the mood for it.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve full attention.
Right, yeah. And then, like you said, you get to the battle and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to...
Eat your veggies.
Eat your veggies.
Got to keep your vitamin
Brush
D
your teeth,
and iron.
Eat your vitamins, say your prayers. Sorry, I got to throw that in every time. You just brought up some really good points here with regards to all that, and I think a lot of the cartoons of the 80s always had that. Like you look back and it's like, well, why did they do that? Doesn't really make sense. I just felt that other toy lines like Transformers and G.I. Joe especially had more elements going into them, right? Like the struggle felt a bit more real for those, whereas M.A.S.K, I never really understood what Venom's point or purpose was. Are they just a dumbed down Cobra or whatever? But either way, I find their vehicles really cool, so I collect it.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't very cerebral. There wasn't a lot of deep thinking going on behind this. Yeah. If they didn't have the weapons and the systems they had, these guys couldn't hold I mean, they wouldn't be making minimum wage. They're that inept. Venom. I mean, they're really boobs. They really are.
Well, so were the stormtroopers, but
Well, but they had enough money behind them,
Okay.
And now they can shoot straight.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the boutique toy shops like Ramen or what's the other one that's doing the 3 3/4 figures? What do you guys think about those modern
I think
interpretations?
Ramen, and I was going to address this as well. We're finally getting the shark.
Yes.
One toy that's been missing from the M.A.S.K collection for forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I'm excited about.
I just pre-ordered their Thunderhawk, so
Oh, you did? I was going to ask about that. Yeah, so you did pre-order it. I was curious because I know, as a kid, always wanting Thunderhawk, so I was curious if you were going to get the modern one or not, and because obviously Shark is one I'm going to get that one. If he actually goes forward with that, I want the Shark as well. So
is he not sure yet?
It's not official for the Shark yet.
Okay. Yeah. I think Ramen had to cancel another toy recently. I forget exactly which one it was. It might have been a Centurions one.
Yes, he canceled the John Thunder knockoff, the Native American one. Yeah.
It's unfortunate because I know he doesn't have the official license. I don't think he has it for Centurions, but I know he doesn't for M.A.S.K because he calls the Thunderwing as Gullwing. So if he's kind of going the Transformers route, where like I look at my fans' toys Galvatron there, and they have to call it a different name, right? Or any of the third-party Transformers, they can't use the official names. So, but I do hope that the Shark does go through. I've got a Playmobil kit there, which isn't the right Porsche vehicle, but like they had the right colors and it was customizable. So I was able to get that as a Shark. But if the there we go.
There you go. Cool.
If the Ramen toy one comes out, I'm going to be tempted. But there's also so much coming out these days. I do hope. I'd love to see O-ring style ones that fit with your Joes. Right. I'd love to see that. I know they did a Matt Tracker in the 25th anniversary line. Still waiting for my Miles Mayhem. If they ever make one. Although I think they may have done an homage to Miles Mayhem as a convention exclusive. I'm not sure. I'm starting to. That's where my memory fades a little bit on some of this stuff.
For me, the figures don't matter at all to me without the vehicles, so I don't. That's just my case. It's all about the vehicles to me. So I don't care about
that's
the figures.
true. The M.A.S.K toys. That's why I also don't get why they sold like the figures in 2-packs.
Agreed.
What's the point? It's all about the vehicles, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Shark, we got a question in the chat. Do any of you know where Michael French got his custom Shark?
So
he did a video.
Michael French Shark is from a guy called Cliff Dagger. I actually have one of his Sharks as well. The quality of that one is not that great. As you saw in Michael's video, it practically disintegrated in his hands.
Yeah, I saw that.
The one that I now have a picture of in the box is actually from a different guy. He's on Facebook called Custom M.A.S.K Shark, something like that. This one is quality-wise better, but it's part former.
Yeah,
not fully transformable. The back fins. That's actually that's a parts former part.
Mine is the same way. Like it's 3D printed parts former. You have to clip all the stuff on. So I guess hopefully Ramen makes the first really good one. But for the rest of us with a custom Shark, it does fill a gap.
Sure.
So I guess maybe that's a question for the rest of you guys, whoever wants to answer first. Like, is it worth getting a subpar Shark? I'm not saying the Ramen toy is a subpar. I'm talking about the custom ones that came before. Is it worth getting one that's subpar to fill a gap, even if it doesn't have the engineering? I go with yes. It's worth just having it. Yeah.
Pete?
Oh, I think it's a quintessential part to the collection, and I certainly would like to add one.
Yeah, the only
by
problem
one way
with
or
these-
another.
So the only problem with these custom ones is because they're all handmade. They're really, really expensive.
Yeah.
This one is like $450.
I'm willing to wait. Yeah, for the gap isn't as important as the quality that fills the gap to me. So I'm willing to wait personally. Again, because the price is so high. If it was more reasonable, okay, you could fill that gap for $150, $200, but $400, $500 for subpar. No, I'll wait.
That's fair.
I've waited 35 freaking years. I'll wait 37 years. I'll wait some more. Anyway,
that's actually a very fair point that you just made there, Michael. And
for me,
with regards to that, I think my cutoff or my main criteria is it photogenic, right? If it looks good in photo, if it looks good in video, I'll deal with some of the flaws. But having said that, as I say that, I'm reminded of a time when 3A released a Halo Master Chief that was supposed to be able to pose, and then when it came out, it could not do any of the things that the box art could show. And I heard that they lost the license from 343 Studios because of that. Wow. And I'm bothered about that now. Back then, I didn't care as much, but just so you know, it was $314.99 Canadian. So after tax, it's over $350. So in American dollars, that's just under $300. It's about $280. And imagine paying that. This is $2014. When I first got it, I didn't mind as much because I just put it on display. But as I looked at the box, I was like, doesn't do anything that the box, and I sold it for 1/3 of what I paid for it by 2017. I was that or 2018, whatever. I was that disgusted by it after a while. So I think it comes down to what it's advertised to do, right? Like the custom sharks, unless I'm mistaken, none of them claim to be able to do that one-touch engineering, right? We hold it to that standard. Right. But like that Halo Master Chief bugs me to this day because of that particular thing. I took a $200 loss just to get it out of my collection 3 or 4 years
Just
after
make
buying
it go away.
Yeah, make the memory go away. And the funny thing is it didn't bug me as much because I needed to fill that gap, and that was more important than anything else until it stayed in my collection long term and I educated myself more on toys. And then it bugged me.
And in Ramen Toys' defense, I mean, the stuff that they're making, like I'm into Centurion, so I was looking for that John Thunder. They're also making a Doom drone. Geez, if I could talk. Well, the original ones are $450, $500. This is going to be $70. I'll take an off-brand version. Same with the Thunderhawk Jody's getting. I mean, that's a reasonable price for what looks like an extremely quality made, same scale, same articulate, even better articulation on the figure, but it fits and it aesthetically works with, your collection. That's why I'm looking forward to his shark, because for the price, the sharks, if it's anything like the Thunderhawk, it's going to be under $200.
At least with Ramen, it looks like it's going to be quality stuff because it's actually factory made and not somebody sitting in his basement grabbing an old model kit and trying to convert that. So
correct.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to be said too about whether the item has a more modern look or whether it has a more vintage look. I think with Centurions, they're meant to go with the vintage. I think.
Well, the stuff he's releasing now, that's what's interesting. The 3 figures weren't; those had a new modern look. Then he released a vintage flavor. The Doom drone is actually the first one he's releasing is the modern look, and then he's going to release the vintage look. But yes,
fair enough.
He's doing. It's kind of confusing because he's doing the both thing. But with the Thunderhawk, it's one version, and it does really go with that 80s aesthetic with the other vehicles,
with a little more sleekness to it, right?
The
way it's designed.
I think it's more screen accurate.
Yeah, but there's also like more added details, like you actually see the brake parts.
Right. So, I mean, like you look at like modern Transformers and the third party Transformers, they tried to hit the modern left, right, and center, right? Gridiron Studios, they're targeting G.I. Joe classified in the modern. But like when you get a third-party company that tries to make something vintage looking, there's something, it hits you in a different spot. That's why I was grabbing my something out of my bookcase there, like this Garandan figure from Stan Solo, right? We're all like, this is an exact example. Like if Hasbro were to make, they probably won't because they're so behind on their is it their not their vintage collection, but their retro collection, the retro collection, right? If they came and suddenly made that, would I actually buy that and replace this? I'm not sure that I would. Right. I probably wouldn't. If they made a Bantha, I'm not sure that I would. So when
they made it to the quality of their first retro collection, I wouldn't. Hasbro's quality, it's garbage. When a third party guy's making it better than the people that own the IP, I'm sorry, just
they can hold their weapons.
You see the same with Transformers. If you look how many quality assurance issues they've had with Transformers, look at the MP4 440, the latest Optimus Prime.
Yeah,
$400 toy, and it comes out of the box with quality issues.
Yes.
What the F?
Oh,
I know. That's why, like, when people ask me, was I going to replace the MP10 with the MP44? I'm like, let's see what it comes out of, because I paid like $150 US total for the MP10 back in the day. The MP44 to be 3 times as much has to be almost 3 times as good. I know there's inflation, so let's just say, let's say it's twice as good. Maybe it's worth it. A lot of money. But when I heard that it had quality issues coming out of the box, and that's not just Hasbro, that's Takara as well, overseas, right? So, but I mean, we talk about Ramen Toy, we talk about Chris Smith and Stan Solo. These are passion projects for them.
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
So they will when something happens, it bugs the hell out of them, right? Some of you guys collect Valiverse, like when the factory showed up with unpainted butterfly joints in the flesh, he sent them back and got them repainted, right?
Yep.
Or recolored or whatever, right? And that's it. There's a difference between a passion project and someone just overseeing who doesn't have the heart behind it, right? And I'm sure some of these companies are making some changes. Like from what I can tell, Lenny from the GI Joe Classified team is very passionate about GI Joe. Like he's doing interviews with my buddy Travis from A Toy Kind of Mood. Emily was there too. So hopefully we're seeing some level of change, right? Like Ryan Ting from the Marvel Legends Hasbro team. I don't know him, but he's friends with a lot of the people in the community. So I hope that there's some sign of change from the big companies, right? But you look at Star Wars, right? I mean, I don't mean to bash on them, but like, look what they're doing at the Rancor and the Reva lightsaber, right? Like HasLab's polarizing as it is, right? We all have mixed feelings on them at best anyway, and let alone to roll out projects like that when the boutique companies are doing better. But at the same time, it gives the boutique companies a way to get into the market and stay in the market. So,
yeah, very
I'm
true.
glad the boutiques are there.
They wouldn't
Absolutely.
be there if there weren't holes to fill. You know.
Yep.
yeah, that's why I like to make my video series, expanding the range, all about filling gaps in your collection,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, once you completed a collection, that's about all you can really do, unless you're going to army build or something, or get a whole bunch of variants. You know, what are you going to do after you've completed a line other than, like you said, fill in the gaps from these other makers?
And I think we all go through it, like Pete and Michael especially. I think you two have pretty extensive Star Wars collections, and Jody with your Transformers collection, to the point that third party ends up being the thing you look forward to the most.
Oh yeah, Slave Leia, Ula.
Yep.
I think, Jody, wouldn't you say third party Transformers by far, or you prefer to the real stuff?
Yeah, the third parties, most of them are actually quality products. And what's actually funny enough that even KO, so knockoffs, so exact copies of Hasbro, they're sometimes better quality, and they even have some design flaws fixed in them. So even the Chinese KOs are doing a better job than Hasbro.
We're not going to just recreate it. We're going to recreate it and improve where it needs to be. Good for them.
Yeah.
That says something.
Yeah, some of the knockoffs of the MP36 Megatron, I think, might be what you're referring to, Jody. Because when I held that one, I was like, because the back has that kibble in the back that just looks terrible, and they put like a cover on it so it doesn't look so bad when you take photos from the back. It doesn't have that mash up. Because you know how Transformers, they like to hide the kibble in the back so that you can take it looks good on the front. But a third party company went and like put like a cover, like just a piece of plastic to just cover all that back kibble. So when you take photos from the back, he actually looks like he
make
does
it
in the
go
cartoon.
away.
That's right.
Yeah,
And, like one, and that's just one piece of plastic, right?
So that's what also my beef with Hasbro nowadays is not only quality issues, also cheap designs. Look at, for example, the HasLab Unicron. That's a fucking shell former.
It
You know,
is.
a robot hiding in a plastic shell, and you fold up the shell, and it's hanging left, up, right, down. You can actually grab all those parts and form the planet again. It's just missing one gap. And there's actually a third party which made a stand and the gap fillers, so you can actually have the HasLab Unicron
Yeah, I've seen
in
that.
robot mode and the entire shell.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, it's
Well, one cell that one is actually properly designed. It's a lot smaller for its Unicron, but it's a properly designed Unicron.
Well, we see a lot of love for the Stan Solo Iconicon figure in the chat there. And yes,
that's a killer figure.
absolutely. And I echo your sentiments there, Jody. Like, could we not have had a better stand come with the Unicron? You know, like getting a third party stand to fill the gap. You know.
And how much was that figure?
$350, wasn't it? Or was it more than that?
HasLab Unicron?
Was it more?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was 500, wasn't it? It was 500. Sorry, no, 575. It was almost 600. 574.99. That's what it cost.
Wow. And that was what, 5 years ago?
Three or four. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just
350.
Kinda-
I was thinking the Rancor because I saw this when I saw 350. So anyway,
well, that back to the Motu thing. I mean, that's why the pricing thing I can't quite get my head around. When you're coming out with the vehicles that they're doing on the shelves, a playset that's $75. I don't see how they can justify $500 for Eternia. It doesn't have that much more plastic overall than a Castle Grayskull. Yes, there's some mechanisms if they do.
I was going to say the mechanism,
but even that, I mean, that can't. Let's say it adds $100.
Right,
then
it's
it
not
should
got
only be-
built-in LEDs and
Right.
you know.
I don't know.
hopefully the stretch goals are good for that one, right? For Pete's sake, literally.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Literally.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I mean, I don't want to see Pete not get it. I know it's still the cheapest way for him to get a box for an Eternia. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I don't think those.
Yeah, plug that in your
$500.
eBay search and look, and it's like box only in very teeny tiny print, and you're like, how much?
I think I could buy my big format color laser printer and print my own, that and make my own box for less money
Right?
than the damn thing. Just
like $1,500 box only.
Yeah, crazy.
You could buy a beat up box, but then is it worth it? No, that's probably
not
still going to
even-
cost you. Still going to cost you a few
Yeah,
hundred.
you're still gonna pay.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
But I'm like, come on already. Just somebody leak the price point for crying out loud so we can at least get that out, because it's getting tedious. We're all throwing out numbers like it's gonna be this. No, it's gonna be that. And it's like, just freaking leak it. And maybe that speaks. I know I'm waiting for it. Like this 4-pack seems like, yeah, whatever. Get that the hell out of the way. Like,
I like the idea of getting the He-Man through the ages like that, but there's got to be a better way to do it.
they're
I don't
going to
know.
drop them single carded later on. That's the other thing.
And for retail price.
Yeah.
Even if it's not and is it back metalized? What is it? I don't know.
or,
even if they don't have that, people, I don't think, how many people are getting those for the accessories versus the face and the other looks of the other characters?
That's a really expensive cardboard box TV. That's all I got. Like, what?
Toys have become something.
And I love box art.
I know.
And again, get a airbrush, some Molotow paint, and you can airbrush the chrome and make them look exactly like those things.
Yeah.
I've seen it done. Now, you can't touch it, but it would look the same for a lot less money.
If we had the skill set, not everyone has the skill set.
Well, that's not that hard.
I'm willing to learn.
We're ready to believe you. Okay.
So in the last 10 or 15 minutes here, is there anything anybody wants to get off their chest? Or did we do that already? Did we do that by and large?
I think we did that.
Jody, what about you?
I'm all good.
Other than
really
Hasbro.
the talks. I'm always in for talking about M.A.S.K.
Yeah.
So maybe next time we could talk about these little guys. Another underrated storyline. Talk on, buddy.
Oh yeah.
No, I know, I know, but I was looking for the pilot. I'm like, does it fit inside? I'm like,
Oh,
I mentioned Starcom
He's in
earlier.
there.
So, okay, cool.
It's
It's another line.
The windscreen smoked. You don't see.
You just don't see them. You just
Yeah.
don't see them out in the wild.
No, you see M.A.S.K a heck of a lot more than Starcom, and you don't
Yeah.
see M.A.S.K often.
Wow.
Yeah, I look for that every time I'm out, and I never see Starcom.
Mm-mm.
I never really got into it. That's why I had to do kind of a double take on what Jody showed there. And I know that the pilots are actually smaller than the M.A.S.K drivers. But what media was out there for Starcom if somebody wanted to jump on some low hanging fruit, or is it going to be toy commercials?
It's all on YouTube. It's only like 13 episodes.
Also, those Visionaries.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that was a bigger scale, right? Visionaries.
Visionaries were pretty big, yeah.
A little more than bigger than GI Joe.
Right,
Yeah.
like 4.5 inch, almost like Playmates figures that are like
Girls.
4.5 inch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. These esoteric toy lines, I mean, I don't know. Is M.A.S.K really esoteric? It doesn't feel like it anymore. But
I don't think it's esoteric now.
I think it's esoteric to the, like I said earlier, to the common person out there. But to us, it's like if you say M.A.S.K is esoteric to a bunch of collectors, they're going to be like, not really. You know,
Yeah.
it's the
Toy
big
collectors no. Yeah.
It's the big cult line. You know,
Mhm.
like the cult is big for it, but it's still a cult. So
Well, at least the M.A.S.K virus is spreading, right? Because every time we talk to somebody about M.A.S.K, we got Tony from Analog Toys hooked. We got Scuba Pete hooked. We got Barker hooked.
Yeah.
Luke
And
at
we got
Reynolds
Brandon.
Reviews.
yeah, Luke was just in here earlier, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a fun toy line. And I say again, I think it has something to do with seeing miniature cars and trucks that we all saw growing up on the roads that you just don't see anymore.
Absolutely. Right.
And
it's
they're pretty good
relatability.
representations, you know, other than wanting to see a minivan. I mean, that
Are you talking about Slingshot there?
slingshot. Yeah.
Well, what's inside the minivan is pretty cool, though.
I agree. I
Yeah,
would.
that's
That's
once
the
it's
only
deployed.
Totally. Yeah. But I never used that as a minivan. I would drive that damn thing around with it spinning because I didn't want to see it in minivan form.
Oh my. Yeah, I just think that M.A.S.K has so much untapped potential even today. Like if Hasbro wanted to go back to it and build and rebuild the IP around it, I just think that the potential is out there because of what they've already set up. The flashy colors, the transformable vehicles.
Sure.
You just need to give Venom more to work with.
Don't you think they would be inordinately expensive to create, though? If you wanted to make those same mechanisms,
Oh, it'd be madness.
I don't think you could. I don't think they'd be affordable.
Yeah.
Well, at least I wouldn't want to pay the money they'd want, because you're talking 100 and something a figure, a vehicle.
You can't make this anymore for like $30.
No, not at all. Well, one guy with some great custom mask stuff he was showing us the other day is Articulated Chad. So thank you for the super chat again. Says it works well in 4-inch scale too. And I don't know if he's referring to custom figures or if he's referring to the 2008 Specialist Tracker figure, because I didn't really collect modern G.I. Joe, but I had to get that figure. Right, just because it was M.A.S.K, and I would have kept going if they'd done like a proper Miles Mayhem. They'd done Dusty Hayes, who's a pizza maker, not a chef. They'd done Brad Turner, who's a guitar player and a musician, or Gloria Baker, who's a champion martial artist, apparently. So yeah,
she can kick ass.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, I'm pretty much at the end of my my agenda here, unless anyone has something else they want.
Yeah, this was great.
So much fun. Right?
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and I was all worried that nobody was going to join us in the chat, but like, there's all these new names in here, and all our regulars are in here. I'm just like, I blame the YouTube notification system. You know, we jumped on.
We got 26 viewers right now. So.
I think we peaked at 30. Right, so when we started, it was 0. Was it 0 or was it 3? I think it was you 3. And then Boba Hicks made 4, and then Gojatron, and then Grindhead.
Just went from there,
and then it just went from there. I think we peaked at about 29 or 30. So it was like, all right, cool. I guess it was an okay topic.
M.A.S.K is always a great topic.
Yeah, that's what surprised me.
And like
right?
I said, there's just not that much out there on the YouTube to watch about it. So
yeah, just timelessness nature of the vehicles. I wish I could devote more space to them, because like I have my bookcases back here. I got an identical setup over there, but the M.A.S.K vehicles are all over the top of the of there, and I'm sitting there like, if I ever get Boulder Hill, where's it gonna go?
Oh.
You know, that thing's got a massive footprint.
Jeff Barker and I saw Boulder Hill at Joe Fest, and it was like, I think it was like $250, and I was like, oh, that's so tempting. I mean, I have owned it before, but I gifted it to a very dear friend for his Christmas, because
M.A.S.K prices are increasing dramatically, because the one I got for Tony, I got for $150.
Yeah, the one I got for my buddy Brandon, I paid $100 for. It did not have the hoses, but everything else was there back in the day.
I don't have Hulu, to answer Impossible Pie's question. I don't have Hulu, so I'm not up with the new seasons of the Orville, but I had been watching it when it was still on Fox, and I really enjoyed it, and it was getting better. The more they got away from the dick and fart jokes, and they really got into some. It was
right.
sophomoric early on, but it really had that classic Star Trek feel to me. I enjoyed it, but I sadly don't have Hulu. Can only have so many streaming services,
Fair enough. I got too many myself. Right. I won't cancel WWE Network, even though it's totally not worth it for me for $15 Canadian a month or whatever that is American.
Wow.
11 American just to get some documentaries, and because I'm not watching that much current wrestling, or at least current WWE. So Jody, got one for you
good
here.
Question.
Who knows?
I hope so.
I think the Chasing 80s Toys crew already has a full agenda by themselves now that they're not one.
Oh, no. There's always room for more crazy Dutchies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We almost had it here because I did extend the invite to Barker and Chris as well. So you almost had both the crazy Dutchies on here. Now this would have just been a 2-hour stream and not a 90-something minute stream if we had done that. Or I would have just gone off camera and let you guys all talk.
Chris is at Elfia.
That's right.
Weekend,
he mentioned that.
He was very excited to be. He's been training. He's getting back from that COVID slamming him, and so he's been walking and trying to exercise and build up. And I was like, dude, I'm just glad that you're well enough that you're gonna go.
What am I missing with Orville here? Because if it's been embraced by Disney Plus as well, maybe it's worth watching.
Yeah, it is on.
Oh,
Disney
it's a good
Plus
show.
now.
If you like,
it's very good.
If you like what?
Star Trek,
if you like Star Trek,
you'll like the Orville.
Yeah,
I actually started over, and now I'm like season 2, moving ahead.
I tried watching Deep Space Nine a little bit. It kind of holds up. I know the story's really good, but there's just too much other media out there. Like I started watching Deep Space Nine, got less than an episode in, then all of a sudden Cobra Kai was back out, and I was like, well, I guess I'm doing that for a few days. And then Andor is it's coming out very soon. I'm not sure what to make of that. But yeah. Well, wow, gentlemen, so much to talk about today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So glad to get all of your insight here. Only regret to have to say goodbye to the chat and go offline because if somebody said, hey, you have 4 hours to talk about M.A.S.K, I would do it. I'd munch my lunch right in front of here while you gentlemen talk, grab a plate full of pasta and just munch away at it while you all show off your collections or something. Wish we had time to do like a tour of everyone's collection. That'd be really nice. So
yeah, sometime.
Yeah. Well, anyway, hey, thanks all three of you for being on. Thanks GenXToysGeek Jody for sponsoring this StreamYard account. Always got to mention it if he's on the stream. Thanks to the channel members, patrons. Some of you are in the live chat. Some of you are on screen. Nolan, quick hello to you before I sign off. So, hey, for everyone else out there, subscribe to GenXToysGeek. Subscribe to Chasing 80s Toys. Follow at M.Shaffer.J on Instagram. Too humble behind the scenes, but once we get you in front of the camera, we know you've got a social media personality there, Mr. Shaffer.
No. You guys, again, I said it before we were on. You guys are the famous guys. You have branding. I'm fine with being behind the scenes. I have nothing to promote.
Yeah, we have to pull you out from behind the scenes because you're not the typical behind the scenes personality. You know what I mean? You have the insight to be on camera, but your desire is like behind the scenes. Right. So
very kind.
Yeah. Anyway, anyone else who wants to catch the replay, it'll be available. I won't hide the stream in any capacity once it's done, but just bid everyone else farewell and thanks to everyone. And again, the links to the Chasing 80s and GenXToysGeek is in the description below. But otherwise, God, what's the M.A.S.K? I can't say Yo Joe or more than meets the eye here. What is it? I mean, it sounds so cheesy if I go, an illusion is the ultimate weapon, and then I sign off. Just like, what am I? Lifter on. And I'm gonna awkwardly end the stream like it. All right. Have a good one, folks. We'll cut it right there.
See ya.
Yeah. Oh, tomorrow I'll be putting out the second part of my collection tour, the Modern Retro Tour. So
nice.
Check out that tomorrow morning. I will premiere that as well. And otherwise, take care and keep loving those M.A.S.K toys.